Alright, so just a little behind the scenes stuff about, me trying to make this video. I tried to find some way to get like a VHS filter to basically appear on the screen when I record this. Like the frame would be like staticky and stuff. Um, and I just was not able to figure that out. So, you know, you get the clear picture for a movie that is very much the way the version that I watched anyway just felt like it was ripped straight off of a VHS that had recorded this from on a TV or something because man, it just flooded back all sorts of memories of recording shows on VHS and then watching it back like without the commercials on it. That's just what immediately popped into my mind. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Daniel Strunk from QuickTime Reactions, and welcome back to my Forever Classic series, where we are taking a look at all things Fantastic Four, whether it be their movies or stuff that is, I feel like, tangentially connected to Fantastic Four in the lead up to our first family taking its first steps in the MCU. Now, today is a very, very special one because many people might not have heard about this version of the Fantastic Four, but it is out there. I am, of course, talking about the Fantastic Four film that went unreleased in 1994, although, however, some copies of it did get out. And it is definitely something, and we're going to talk about it. This film stars Alex Hyde White, Jay Underwood, Rebecca Stabb, and Michael Bailey Smith as our first family. Carlo Ciafalio, I'm hoping I'm saying his last name correctly. Ian Trigger, Joseph Culp, Kat Green, as well as a whole host of other people are in this cast. And this movie deals with this thing called the Colossus, which every 10 years shows up and it is closest to the Earth and is perceivable to the human eye. Well, two college students at the time, Reed Richards and Victor Von Doom, are trying to harness the Colossus's energy to basically have a unique energy at their disposal. But a lab accident goes horribly wrong. 10 years later, Reed tries to try again with the Colossus with his team, which includes his friend Ben Grimm, as well as the Storms, Reed, or Johnny and Sue Storm. They head up into space to try and harness the energy of the Colossus, but of course something goes horribly, horribly wrong up in space, and they eventually make their way back to Earth with these new powers. And so not only do they have to feel out or get used to these new powers, but Reed's old friend from his past, Victor Von Doom, is still alive and is trying to wreak havoc on Earth using the energy of the Colossus to try and take over the world. So will the Fantastic Four be able to stop him? We're going to have to find out. So this movie was written by Craig J. Nevius. Again, I'm hoping I'm saying his last name correctly. As well as Kevin Rock. And it was directed by Ole Sassone. Again, I'm hoping I'm saying his last name correct on that. But the most interesting aspect of this movie is that it was produced by Roger Corman. Yes, Roger Corman, king of the B movies, was the first man to say, we should make a Fantastic Four film. And I don't know much about the history of this movie, but what I do know is that it was unreleased. But of course, slowly but surely, information about this came out, and we do have the full movie available to watch. I actually watched it through the Internet Archives website. Which was, again, when watching it, there was just a whole bunch of like VHS lines on the on the video, and I was just like, remember back in the days when you like recorded stuff on VHS and like it would cut out the commercials. I mean, we've all done that, or at least people. God, it makes me sound old. People my age remember doing that. But this one, it's not the worst one that I've watched. That handily goes to Fantastic. But this one was just like a whole lot of fun to watch. Like, for instance, with Fantastic, we had two pretty solid entries beforehand, with the Tim Story one. So, and we also had the comics at that point. Like, we knew what the key beats were supposed to be, and Fantastic completely missed the mark on that. Like here, like we did have the comics, but there was no real like template movie wise to go forward with, and so I think with in combination of that plus it being Roger Corman, like when you hear his name, it's immediately associated with like B movies and stuff. So it's like your expectations are like just a touch lowered. It's like, okay, I'm not going into this like expecting much, and then coming out of it, it's like I actually had a pretty fun time watching that. The effects on our first family, I think, are actually pretty decent, considering the time that it was. I think the best one again is probably Thing, because it was probably actually like a legitimate costume. Again, a practical costume, and I think it looked really good. Although second to that is probably Susan Invisibility. I thought that one was done pretty well. Although I will say, in a later fight when she turns invisible, two people run towards each other and collide, and I just thought in my mind, I don't think that would work out that way. Like they would still like bump into something, but it would be like her instead of like them two colliding. So I thought that was that was just like just a little nitpick, but it's like that's fine. Johnny's flame on ability, or his flaming powers, like they looked all right. Like I'm not gonna nitpick like too horribly about it, because again it's the 90s and also it's Roger Corman, but it almost looked as if like someone was like pointing a flashlight at like a certain spot at some points, and then when he became the full Human Torch, it kind of looked a little weird. I saw in the what was it? I think it was on maybe IMDb somewhere, where someone had posted a review and said this is almost like an episode of Power Rangers, and I kind of agree with that. It's kind of like, we follow our heroes mostly, but we also have this, I wouldn't necessarily say subplot, but we have this like different area where um, this creature who, let me look here. Um, Chuck Butto, who plays Weasel, I believe that is the character's name. He steals the jewel that the Fantastic Four are going to use in their flight. He steals it so he can impress Alicia, who in this movie is played by Kat Green, who is blind. Um, he's trying to impress her so that she can be like the queen of like this underground kingdom of like rejects. Um, and I was just thinking to myself, is this because when I first saw this character, I was like, is that Mole Man? Because Mole Man was fresh in my mind because Mole Man's going to be in the MCU movie. So I was like, wait, is that Mole Man? But no, it's not. Um, so you have all these like weird creatures, and then you also have Doctor Doom, who is very much uh, Rita Repulsa because he's not only is he like dressed really really cool, but he also talks in big grandiose, and he has these big you know grand expressions with not only with the way that he moves his body and stuff like that, but the way that his voice fluctuates is very much like um, those big like animated villains from like those 90s TV shows, as well as a mix of like the old school like mustache twirling villains as well. Um, but yeah, I gotta say, like, I had a pretty fun time watching this. Like, all of it was embraced with like this like wink and a nudge and stuff like that, or yeah, wink and a nudge of like this is superhero fare. We're just gonna have fun with it, and like Ben said his catchphrase like multiple times over. I also love that when they're getting checked out in the doctor's office, like Johnny's like was like, well, I focus on a part of my body and flame on, and then his hand catches on fire, and he's like, well, I guess we found the magic words. Um, so that's a funny way to kind of incorporate Johnny's catchphrase. Um, but yeah, just this is just like really really fun, and I think it's like with a combination of like this and the Raimi Spider-Man films. It's like you know we just don't get that many like fun comic book movies anymore. It's like comic book movies are supposed to be, a touch on the silly side. It's people in costumes going out to do like, ridiculous stuff. And uh, I think that is kind of like lost its like edge a little bit, and it's like gone to the more serious route. Which don't get me wrong, I love, my serious comic book stuff, comic book adaptation stuff, I should say. But you know, camp is also really, really cool too. Like this, Raimi Spider-Man films, Multiverse of Madness, I think also had that, which is funny because it's also Sam Raimi at the helm of that. Um, fun also has its spot as well. Um, so yeah, not my favorite of the ones that I've watched so far, but it is definitely a fun time. So if you guys are willing to hunt it down, I would definitely check out the Fantastic Four film from 1994, and just kick back and have some fun watching it. That is pretty much it for my review of the unreleased Fantastic Four film. Um, in the next couple weeks, we're going to round things off with a little trip down. We took a trip down memory road, or memory lane, I should say, when reviewing Jimmy Neutron's N-Men episode. But now we're going to really go down childhood lane, memory lane, with the last two entries, because we will be looking at quite possibly the best adaptation of the Fantastic Four, which is The Incredibles. We're going to be looking at those two movies to cap off the the series leading into First Steps. But until then, guys, be safe out there, and remember, if you think you're going to be going up into space with a diamond that is going to help you with your mission, I would just double check and make sure that that diamond is real before you head up, because the effects of, you having the wrong diamond could be catastrophic. I'm just saying. I will see you guys next time.